Right, viewers of Equinoxe Television, 6 p.m. in Douala. It's time for the news. Thank you so much for joining us. Our Majesties right away. 2023 was not at all a rosy one for families who lost loved ones in mudslides which happened in Cameroon during the rainy season. We still remember the Mobile Guinness incidents which took the lives of dozens of Cameroonians, and also the Bankolo mudslide in which tens of thousands were swept away by floods. A retrospect of those incidents in this edition of the news. And Boko Haram continues with violent attacks in the far north region of Cameroon recently. Several people were killed by the extremists in the Grand North. And out of Cameroon, anti-riot police officers dispersed and banned the protest organized by the opposition in the DRC. Viewers, those are our major stories. Details when we come back. Welcome back, viewers. Thank you so much for the confidence. We begin this edition of the news with some enterprises in Cameroon which have not been functioning perfectly or properly, even with the constant change in the management of those enterprises since its creation that was 56 years ago. The National Civil Engineering Equipment Pool, Mudslides, is far from emerging and accomplishing the missions for which it was established. Just like other state institutions, the government has replaced the top management personnel severally, yet no fruitful results. An economist, Edmond Kuate, thinks state authorities have been applying the wrong solution to a problem they do not understand its origin. Innocent Ase with the details.
Created in December 1967, the National Civil Engineering Equipment Pool, Mudslides, is yet to emerge and carry out assignments for which it was established. Mudslides remains unprofitable as a result of irrational management, which traces the movement of equipment, resources, and their uses. This has indebted the company, which has plunged in strike actions over unpaid salaries. As a result, series of changes at the top management by the Ministry of Public Works, with the recent being the appointment of Zambo Belinga and Tikum Elias as board chair and managing director of Mudslides respectively.
We can change thousands of them, but we'll still come back to the same problem. I think the first thing to do is to go through an evaluation, a strategic assessment, to find out what is really the problem, where the problem is. Why can't Mudslides reach out the target predefined to him?
Though it is imperative and urgent for enterprises in similar situation to spin alongside innovation, the situation in Cameroon is a bitter pill in the mouth.
Technologies are changing day in, day out. So far, have we innovated the production tool? A company that was created in the year 60s, we are already in the year 2024, and we're still moving according to the targeted defined in 1960. Don't you think there's a problem somewhere, sir?
Edmond Kwate thinks it is high time the government skips to more serious actions than constantly changing personnel.
Assess the objectives, renew the objectives of the Mudslides, assess the personnel, then assess the technical part of Mudslides. Are the equipment so far still updated to allow Mudslides reaching out the target?
He stresses anything against this overall assessment plan will take Cameroon nowhere.
And now we talk health. Several persons in the city of Douala, just like elsewhere across the national territory, are expressing concerns over chronic cough and even flu during the dry season, which just started. Our reporter Lucy Liengu Asia spoke with a medical practitioner, Dr. Faustin Roger Tapa, who explains the reason for the persistent cough and how it can be prevented or treated.
This season in Cameroon, there is an increase in the number of people suffering from dry cough, allergies, flu, lung infection, and asthma. According to Dr. Faustin Roger Tapa, a medical practitioner, the condition results from several factors.
Catarrh and cough that we have mainly is due to dust, because in the dry season you have dust everywhere. You have pollution getting around with the wind, some germs in the air. that can cause cough or mainly bacteria and viruses.
The signs and symptoms can be perceived.
You can sneeze, you can have a runny nose, you can cough, you can have pain or itching. You can feel like prurring in your throat, in your nose, on the body sometimes, and then you feel dizzy as well, and you can have a red face.
He highlights different traditional methods to aid people suffering from this condition.
Spices are very helpful to you, like giraffe clove, ginger, lemon, honey. A mixture of all that can help. Hot drink can help a lot. So the main thing to do here is to have your prevention over time. That means what? Drinking water on a regular basis when you get up.
Aside traditional methods, physical activities can also help to clear sputum out from the lungs.
Make sure in the morning you make your 30-minute walking, dancing, or whatsoever. You have to do a moderate exercise.
The medical practitioner calls on the population to visit the hospital early if their condition worsens.
And we told in the headlines, viewers, that recently violent attacks by Boko Haram have been on the rise in the far north region of Cameroon. The government of Cameroon has been urged to take the bull by the horn in order to better combat Boko Haram insurgency in the far north region of the country. The incursions, which have led to several deaths, have been blamed on government's poor tactics in handling the Boko Haram affair, which began some 10 years ago. Immaculate Fogwe, in the report which comes up next, tells us more on the strategies civil society expects the government could implement.
Boko Haram incursions continue causing havoc in civil communities in the far north region of the country. In most recent attacks, civilians have been killed, others injured, their goods and money looted, houses burned, causing many to be displaced. On the night of Tuesday, December 26th, 5 herdsmen got killed by Boko Haram militants in Mada, far north region of the country. This is just one of many of such attacks that have caused enormous human and material loss. A civil society activist blames the resurgence on poor tactics on the part of the government.
I have a feeling that the Cameroon government has forgotten that something is happening up now. When you have, frequent attacks coming from terrorists like the Boko Haram sect, your strategy does not need to be permanent. It shouldn't be static. I have an impression that the Cameroon government is always reminded by deaths before they are aware that something is happening up now. That is the kind of government we have.
He regrets the fact that members of the vigilante committee are being used as sacrificial lambs, given that they are not well equipped to face their adversary.
Somebody is coming to fight me with a sophisticated gun and I'm equipped with a cutlass. It's a suicide mission. I don't think there's another definition to suicide mission as such. That you give me remotes, you give me bikes, you give me cutlasses. It's like those who also collect these things, their brains are not well intact. Because if the military that have been trained to combat such people have not been able to put them at an arm's length.
Communities like Koza, Mokolo, Tuboro, Mada, Mozogo have become a shadow of itself as a result of the attacks.
And now we take you to news out of the country. We bring to you recent updates in the DRC, where police officers have fired tear gas. That was earlier today to disperse a protest by opposition supporters in the capital, Kinshasa, calling for a rerun of last week's chaotic presidential and legislative elections.
A week after the election day in the Democratic Republic of Congo, a nationwide protest is expected in the Congolese capital of Kinshasa this Wednesday, despite a ban by the government on Tuesday. Several presidential candidates are denouncing the electoral process marred by episodes of irregularity, which was reported in the general elections held on December 20th.
I don't want trouble. What I want is the Congolese should choose their leaders clearly with the truth of the ballot.
Polling was officially extended to the following day as a large number of polling stations were not able to open due to the late arrival of voting materials and equipment. And some presidential candidates believe the extension is against the electoral law and the constitution. Tensions have been running high since the beginning of the polling on December 20th. 5 presidential candidates had announced on December 23rd that they will launch a massive protest in Kinshasa on December 27. Acts of violence among the protesters remain prime concerns for residents of Kinshasa. As the National Electoral Commission and the electoral body published partial results, Moise Katumbi, one of the main opposition candidates, suggested that the elections should be annulled because of massive fraud. Full provisional election results are expected by December 31st, 2023.
And now we talk sports. After working for 2 seasons without their salaries, referees of the Central Regional League have begun a strike action in Yaoundé today. The referees denounced the way they are being treated by the sports officials in the Central region. Smart Jikan Gabriel with the details.
In their numbers, referees of the Central Regional League of Football are on strike in front of the head office of the Football League.
Les 32e de finale ont toujours été payés. Les 16e de finale, les 8e, les quarts, les demi. Pourquoi ceux qui ont abattu tout le travail du premier tour au 5e tour?
These referees are demanding for the salary arrears which haven't been paid.
Vous voulez monter en élite? Pour repiétiner toute votre vie, vous avez une responsabilité, les gars. Soyez des gens intègres.
For the past 2 seasons, the referees took charge of the preliminary rounds of the Cameroon Cup without payment. Added to it, the referees took charge of matches of the Central Regional Football League, including the play down and play up, without receiving a dime. The referees got irritated due to a media release they saw, which is announcing a promotion test for referees in the Central region this Thursday. And the test will cost 18,000 francs CFA. It is as a result of the different complaints that the referees took the head office of the Central Regional League hostage as they demand for their money, with messages like referees should be respected and enough is enough. Before this strike action, the referees wrote a letter to the senior divisional officer of Mfundi informing him about their situation and the action they intend to take if nothing is done.
And viewers, we sincerely apologize. We won't be having our news in retrospect today, as earlier announced. That does it for the first part of the news. Don't go away, Talking Points comes up next. Welcome back, viewers. Today we will be talking about some news-making events which happened in the year 2023. And my guest tonight is Mr. Emmanuel Ndewum. He is of the civil society. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. We are going to discuss some major news elements. I just said it a while ago, which happened in 2023. The first to us was the murder of Martinez Sogo, who was brutally killed and dumped on the outskirts of Boko 3 in Yaoundé. As a civil society actor, whenever you think of how that journalist or animator of Amplitude FM was killed, what first of all comes to your mind? Fear, anger, or how do you feel when you think of it?
Asking fear, anger, I'll combine the two. You know, we are caught in a situation where people are not allowed or permitted to do their job in Cameroon as it is being done elsewhere. And permit me take this moment to say a word of condolence to all the journalists who have been murdered in Africa throughout 2023, particularly those from Cameroon. When you are asking whether when I hear of the murder of Martinez Zogo, it's very true. I have not met him. I've heard of him several times. But the generalities that prevails in Cameroon reveals that journalists in Cameroon are endangered species. And you will bear with me and understand why I call them endangered species. Because, you know, we are in a system, we are in a dictatorial system where those who are in power do not want the truth to be told to the people. So each time I think of Martinez Zogo, he is not alone. I've been thinking all along, where is the body of Ouazizi? Where is the body of the others that were killed? And justice was never rendered on their behalf. First and foremost, I want to think that we need to encourage the journalists in Cameroon, and us of the civil society, we are behind the journalists, we are supporting them, thinking that they have to do their job with a lot of free and fairness, and they will also have to be very balanced in the way they carry out their job. We don't want a situation where journalists should run into problem because they wanted to rob Peter and pay Paul. We want a situation where they should remain balanced. But then, in the context of Cameroon, we have seen journalists who have come out, who have practically sung praises to the government on things that the journalists were supposed to be the eye-opener of the government, because every information passes by their hands. They have what it takes to disseminate the information in the right way. But then, those who have taken upon themselves to be able to carry out this job remain a threat to the government. You know, our government has a lot of skeletons in her cupboards, and they wouldn't like people who are like whistleblowers. Unfortunately, Martinez Zogo happened to have been one. But then, I insist, he's not the only person in that domain. A lot of them have disappeared. And we are thinking that the government of Cameroon needs to also think, like other Cameroonians need to be thinking also on how to go about the protection of journalists in Cameroon. Because without the journalists, there is no light in the room of information.
And now, Mr. Ndewum, let's talk about the conflict of communiques with the supposed attempts to free principal accused from Kondengi recently. Subsequently, the judge of the military tribunal was kicked out. Do you consider that move laudable by President Paul Biya, or does it indicate the powers that be really want justice for Martinez to go void of any corruption?
What I want to underline here is that first, I'm not an expert in judicial issues. But from what I've learned, ordinary and from observation, Cameroon remains a state of law on paper. But when it comes to executing it, we have not seen it. You know, you will be told that we have 3 arms of government, and I've been singing 5 years, counting, that we have just 1 arm of government in Cameroon. That is the executive arm of government. It controls the legislative, it controls the judiciary, will become very dangerous. That is why you will discover that we have state criminals in Cameroon who are walking free, who are not supposed to be walking free. But since they are covered by this arm that I just mentioned, they have the leeway to move as they want. When you are talking about a communique that came out and somebody said it was fake, we expected him to remain on that seat if it was fake. And we have done every comparative analysis to understand whether the signature was fake, and I can tell you that it was never fake. And the government's reaction, kicking him out of office, confirmed our position, affirmed our position that there was a miscarriage of justice somewhere. What beats my imagination is that the person we are talking about today was a friend to injustice yesterday when he was meted out on other people. Today it is his turn. We are expecting to see justice. So to coin it all, we can just agree for once that there is no friendship in dictatorship. When you are eating with the dictators, know that at any point in time, your spoon can be taken off from your hand. And at that time, if yesterday you were eating alone, don't expect those who are not eating with you to come and fight for you. So we cannot talk. I don't want to really go into so much of the file about Eko and Amugo Belinga or whatsoever, the security that was kicked out of the office. What Cameroonians should know is very simple. Justice in Cameroon depends at what angle you stand, not the fundamentalities of what the law says and how it should be practiced. I have been urging some lawyers to actually one day stand up against such abuses on the laws of our land, which are not exercised the way they ought to have been exercised, which is not a good thing for a country that plights itself as a country or as a state of law.
And now, Emmanuel, let's talk about these mudslides which happened in Cameroon, precisely at Mobile Guinness and Bankolo in Yaoundé. Several people died and promises were made. Most of those promises were not respected somehow, as not all the survivors have been relocated or taken care of by the government. Now, can we see in Cameroon the common man has been left to themselves or to himself?
Before we face out, I want to insist on this thing of Martinez, that justice should be seen as to be served, not as to be said. Because saying the law is not serving justice. That said, the case of Bankolo, I am sure that I was privileged to be the first guest on the insight on this very subject. And I said, in every country, there are bound to be natural disasters. But the management of natural disaster is what makes it a difference. Because there are ways we can mitigate such disasters. But since in Cameroon, we don't preview anything. We wait for happenings to take place. Then we come in, we tell lies to population. You saw even the shameful outing of the Minister of Territorial Administration. That people are dying. Houses have been buried. Children are beneath the soil, covered by a landslide. Yet, you carry mattresses to go and give to people who do not have houses. That is a mockery on the population. You cannot, look, the management of natural disasters has to be spontaneous. We have experts in such domains in Cameroon, which means that some natural disasters can be foreseeable. But then, that is not what obtains. You wait, people are dying, you go there, you sing the head of state, you carry mattresses, you give to them. You are mocking the population. How do you take a mattress, whereas you don't have a single room to sleep in? Is the minister telling us that take this mattress, look for somewhere on the street and be sleeping? I think this is the kind of governance I've been calling on it to step aside. I don't even know how we'll shout again. But until the day that Cameroonians will discover that we are paying a price for babysitting an unpatriotic government for a long time, that is when they shall know where the problems are coming from. I repeat, until Cameroonians come to their senses that we are paying a price for being patriotic to an unpatriotic government, leadership that has failed in every domain, that is when Cameroonian troubles shall start reducing.
But Emmanuel, just to mention that the mattresses were given or offered by the government to those who were being accommodated precisely at the Yaoundé Party House. Now, before we go, the reaction of the government ministers descending on the fields during mudslides and asking people to quit the area because it's a rich zone, it's usually considered rich zone after every other incident. Do you consider that a concrete solution, telling people to quit?
One thing I will be telling Cameroonians again tonight is the fact that I am sure that we have low-costing housing in Cameroon. I've been asking and asking, where were those houses constructed? Because in other countries, like US, the town halls, the council halls are used at such times when there are disasters, which are emergencies. Such structures serve the population during this period. And when you are asking the population to relocate, without telling them exactly where to relocate to, do you really feel that you are an administrator? When you listen to your own self talking, does it make sense that you are telling me to relocate, yet you are not telling me where to relocate? I was expecting that the Yaoundé City Council was supposed to harbor some of these victims. If there are town halls in Yaoundé, they should harbor some of these victims. Yet they remain at the level of words. Relocate for your safety. People need to run away from risky zones. And if they have succeeded to impoverish all of us in Cameroon, and we don't have what it takes to get a befitting area to live in, and we benefit from the risky zones, who should be blamed? Should the population be blamed? And in other countries, I think the disaster management departments always create times to sensitize the population about the signs, the telling signs of disasters, so that the population itself can be able to read disaster signs. But in Cameroon, I don't know, maybe somewhere under somebody's bed or inside somebody's room, such sensitization has taken place, but I've not seen it in the open. So I'm just basing my analysis on what I've seen so far. Except otherwise in such programs like Talking Point, where the population needs to be told certain things, they are not aware. So the government, ending at the level of people relocate, is merely child's play. It looks like child's play to me.
Thank you, Emmanuel Ntewum, for accepting to be our guest on Talking Point tonight. Viewers, thank you so much for always being there. Don't go away, our programs continue. Equinoxe comes up in about 30 minutes. That would be at 7 p.m. and the news in the French language with Nadine Yambu. That would be at 8 p.m. Stay with us on Equinoxe Television. Bye-bye for now.